Hey guys, Stealth here, welcome back to another Wargame video. Before we get today's video going, I would like to ask you to like the video because it really helps me out. The more videos get liked, the more they get shown to other people and, well, you know, the YouTube algorithm, it doesn't always like to show stuff like Wargame. Right, today I have a replay for you, which has been a while. The reason why I'm showing this as a replay and not a live commentary is because I want to show you how Mucius plays South Africa. This was actually a game he played against me. I have a second account these days, and that second account is there because sometimes I don't want to be Stealth 17 on Wargame. Because it's a name that often gets recognized. It puts a lot of pressure on myself, I noticed. So every now and then I play on the second account and I have a lot more fun. I can do all sorts of weird shit. And it's just a lot more interesting for me. So as Sergeant Major Blueberry Muffin, that was my undercover nickname at the time, I fought Mucius in this ranked game. We are on Mudfight, and I am operating as USSR Mech. He is operating as South Africa, which I believe is a general deck. Now, let's see what he opens with. He has a Roycat 76 and two 105s, a Beta 90, 3 Cactus. That's a lot of NTR, so he's expecting some sort of helicopter offensive or preparing to defend against it. Over here he has the Samel, the K-Car, another K-Car, and another K-Car. An Olifant Mark 1B. Not a great tank. It's got a great gun, but it's not very well armored at 11 frontal armor. Poor optics means you gotta really support it, but it does have a 16 AP gun with a 60% accuracy. So keep it stationary and it will do damage, especially with 10 rounds of mid-rate of fire, but come up against anything that looks like a medium or a heavy tank and you're not going to do that well. Then we got the Eland 90 and the Narrat0r ZT3A1 for further anti-tank capability. Anti-tank is an area where South Africa tends to struggle. They tend to struggle with heavy armor because the Milan teams are not that well at dealing with heavy armor. What are they called? The Buffalo 85 are not that great at dealing with heavy armor because it requires them to hit their target, which is something that they generally don't do, or at least my guys don't. This Milan F1 has only 17 AP and 40% accuracy. I've seen them miss all 9 missiles just in a row. It is pretty poor, this missile. These guys are elite, so they do get a bit of veterancy bonus, and sadly, as opposed to Wargame does not show the updated statistics of that accuracy. If only they would make Wargame 4 as opposed to Warno. Now, his opener is very heavily focused on a defensive setup, which I think with South Africa is something that he could have done different. South Africa probably would have made it to this town before I did. Because I'm mechanized. Now, he doesn't know that. This is ranked. But my stuff is not going to get there as quickly. Encountering no resistance, my T-72Bs and all of my transports, well, most of them push on. And that's when they come under attack from the Buffalo 85s. This area did not really need to get held by Buffaloes and could have just been held by your standard HEGM team. Over here, he has the Rattle, he has the Recon and the Beta 90, but I think he's very much relying on his reconnaissance here in the town to do the spotting. Because I have some more stuff operating over there, but he can't quite see it. Because the Recon over here, the Eland 90, is too far in the corner. Over here he has the 76. This is a bit precocious, the situation. Because these guys are all parked in one big blob. Now, a bombing run is most of the time a death sentence for a Roycat, because they don't have the top armor. They don't have the side armor either. Spread these things out a little more is what I would recommend. Anyway, with facing very little resistance, I decide that I want to smoke up my units, and my tanks got a bit too far ahead of themselves, because I was managing them poorly. And over here, we can just, well, I smoke off my position, I get my infantry into the town, and that's it. And he kind of sits there. Early on, I think he could have been more aggressive, although he would have struggled with T-72B, so in that respect, this might have been the right choice. Over here, I have nothing in Foxtrot. If he sees my push over here, he could have pushed with South Africa and could have been in this forest here in Foxtrot in no time. I might have been able to see it, because I have Rozvedka and I have Konkurs to shoot at targets, but these Roycats are so fast that they'll cross these planes in no time. And then I only have a Rozvedka there and an ATGM. So if you see a heavy push on one flank, the enemy is most likely weak, if not absent, in my case, on the other flank. Now I continue scouting, and at the moment he doesn't have anything to defend against that. So something simple like a Rattle 20 or a Bosvark could have been a very nice flank defense. He does seem to focus on the left a little more. There's another Roycat 76 coming in. I would love to see this thing veer off to the left, as opposed to continue on its course and join the other Roycat. See, this is not stellar use of the Roycats, because they are very close together. And yes, they can focus their firepower against MTLEVs, but these are very uninteresting targets. And you're just telling me that there are more shooters down there. I, however, was not that focused on this flank at the moment. I was just scouting out with the MTLBVs and seeing what was shooting back. Or rather, if there was anything shooting back. Now, at this point, I already have a +1, because I captured Foxtrot. He also... No, he doesn't have a CV yet. But he doesn't take too much time capturing Charlie. Over here on the left, we're starting to see the first moves of an offensive. There's an XH1 Alpha, as well as 2 Rattle 20s. None of these spot the Rozvedka. Of course, the Rattle 20s won't, because their optics are not that good. It's poor optics, but the XH1 Alpha, I was expecting more of this bird. Good optics, however, are not good enough to pen the very good stealth of the Rozvedka. As for the rest, he has a lot of units which are sitting stationary, not doing much of anything. So do I. To be fair, so do I, but I have, in my position, or at least from my perspective, a better position. I also have a BRDM-3, knocking out an XH1 Alpha, and that BRDM-3 was really not supposed to get detected, so I turn off the gun. He sees it, or at least he could see it, but this BRDM very quickly disappeared. There you go, he chases it down. Ish. He sort of shields his position, but I end up having this BRDM behind his lines almost the entire time. Because he, I don't know, he ignores it, I guess? He's too busy operating elsewhere. Now, he does make great use of the Cheetah Ds. The Cheetahs were constant annoyances for my flank, and were every now and then just dropping their ordnance more or less on the target. That was a recon bird of mine. More or less on the target, because they're not that accurate. The moment that I started recognizing he was playing South Africa, of course I saw his units here, I thought, okay, we're going to use BMPTs. And the BMPTs against the Rattle are going to go and, well, they're just going to cut right through them. These things have so much frontal armor and such a nice autocannon that the BMPT has absolutely nothing to fear of either the Bokop, well, the Bokop maybe, but especially not the Rattle. Now here comes an offensive. This is a good move, because he's smoking off my town, and he knocked out my HEGMs by the use of the Cheetah D. This crater used to be a position where I had a concourse. I have the other concourse swapped around, because I had one over there and I had one over there, and he also took that one out. So I have no HEGMs. I have exactly one recoilless rifle there, and that's about it. This push is very nice, because he's just pushing forward and dashing right into my sector. So this is a great move. However, it is lacking infantry. It is lacking infantry. He dropped off his Bokop 90 there from a Rattle 60 by the way, the mortar. He should have been using a bit of infantry here. Because infantry, backed up by Roycat 76 and 105s, is very tough to deal with. And also, a Cactus, or in this case, a Roycat ZA35. Very nice to also get some NTR in there. Now, I think I do see that. Yeah, I see that unit, the ZA35. And I'm thinking, you know what, he might keep that active. He might keep that active. And currently it is both out of cover and too far back for them to be able to provide support for the Roycats against the EMO24 VP that I called in. Because at this point, I wanted to just start wiping out a couple of these Roycats, and an EMO24 VP is a great weapon to do it with. Also, because his units are over here, they cannot actively shoot my recoilless rifle truck. So with that, I can pretty safely dash out and take a shot at the ZA-35, because he's got nothing to counter that at the moment. So he rushes forward, getting into safety, and gets the Roykats to come back to wipe out the SPG-9. There you go. Now, the T-72 is taking quite a bit of fire. The 76 only has 12 AP, which is more or less what I was banking on, because that means it cannot frontally pen a T-72A. The 105s, however, can, but they're both dead. So that is working out for me quite well. Meanwhile, over here, we're skirmishing a little bit. I'm trying to get into his town. But I wasn't that convinced that I needed to push, because I have a +2. I have Delta, I have Alpha, I have Foxtrot, he has Charlie. I can fairly nicely sit and stand guard. I don't need to push. Now, I don't quite understand this move, this Rattle 60. I'm not sure if it was intentional or not. Maybe he was thinking of smoking up the position, but the thing ran out of ammo. More importantly, he's making good progress over here. I cannot operate with him at 24 VP with the Roykat ZA-35 over there, and the 276s are threatening my CV. Pushing the CV out, and I'm desperately trying to get a tank in. The tank, however, is going to take too long. The Mi-24 VP is ready, however, was getting threatened by the ZA-35, so the seed comes in and takes that out. Recommend that if you have a seedable aircraft, so anything radar guided, you turn it off. Because if it was off, I would not have found it, and I would not have eliminated his only anti-air here. Because the other anti-air is over there, and is going to be absolutely no threat to the VP. This, interestingly, forces him, or at least he decides to pull back. Now, I have a problem here. I have two sneaky Roykat 76s, but I can't see them. I move my CV directly to in front of a Roykat 76, and that goes about as well as you can expect. The T-72 is getting side shots by the Roykats. Because I did not have optics and I didn't know exactly where they were. I just saw a couple of very angry bushes shooting back at my T-72. Which I moved around as a complete derp because it should have been frontal armor that way. In which case, it would have been presenting 18 frontal armor. Now 9 side armor is still no joke and is the only reason why the 12 AP from the Roykat 76 hasn't killed it. But it is still pretty shaky. As for the rest of the position, I'm demanding his attention here by smoking up the position, and that eliminates the use of his buffaloes. I'm trying to get isolated groups so I can shoot at those. Again, the T-72Bs are a bit too aggressive. I meant to push forward with the Mostrelki here and the BTRTs, providing grenade launcher fire. And at this point, the Inflict start damaging the Sapari, which gives their position away, and they immediately come under a withering fire of the T-72Bs and the BTRTs. The Buffalo are still desperately trying to deal damage, but they too are coming under attack. And with their amount of damage, 17, against T-72Bs with 15 frontal armor, they're really not doing that much damage. So I can fairly leisurely take these things out. The Cheetah D comes in again, drops off the barb, but I don't think it actually hit anything. There you go, there's his Buffalo's gone. There's the Canberra, interesting. Or the Canberra, I'm not exactly sure where to put the pronunciation. It tries to do a bombing run on my tank. I reversed the tanks out of that attack, but by reversing those tanks out, I'm giving the Motostrelki absolutely no support other than the BTRTs. Which still proved to be fairly lethal to anything that happens to show its face. And at this point, I know that the Motostrelki are dead, so that's fine. Over on the left, he has taken the forest, still with the Roykat 76s. My T-72 is sitting here, completely unescorted. I really messed this move up. And over here, I'm trying to bring in infantry to get rid of these two Roykats. The challenge will be, can I catch them in time? Because these things reverse a heck of a lot faster than Motostrelki 90 can get there. And now he's also pushing in infantry in Rattle 20s. And to remind you, these things also travel at 105 km per hour off-road, and there is very little I can do about it. The T-72B is not really going the right way, because it's either going to get sideshot by the Roikats, or it's going to get frontally penned by the infantry coming out of the Rattle 20s. Modestrelki here dealing with one of the Roikats, or attempting, but these things are reversing instantly, and making it very difficult to get a shot at them. Aside from that, they are stealthy, and I have very little reconnaissance. There you go, that was another side shot, I think, because this thing is sort of reversing at an angle. Armor angling, sadly, in this game is not a thing. And therefore, the Roikat was able to do damage against the T-72B. I strike back with the Mi-24 VP, but completely missed the target. I am, however, capable of eliminating some of his Rattle, just the one. And this is a bit of a poor move. Just having this position and then reinforcing it would have been much preferential to trying to get the Bok up to take a shot at the tank, which is what I suspect they were doing. They're getting heavily punished for it by the Mi-24 VP. Also bringing in another BMPT to get rid of the Bok. And there is a CV of his. Right? No, I'm bringing in my CV. That's the deal. Which promptly gets bombed by another Canberra. So the CV, which was, I don't think, spotted, or maybe the Bok spotted it, immediately got bombed into oblivion by another bombing run. Over here on the right, no action as of yet. Now, so far, he's really pushing me. He has been able to clear out most of Fox. Yes, I still have a Razvedka. Yes, I still have an Igla. But overall, he is definitely winning the fight in Foxtrot. And I found this very interesting, because he was playing South Africa really well, just dashing across the open field as quickly as he could, and thereby reinforcing his position. You can see that he brought in Inflict. Not a terrible choice against infantry out in the open, but I would probably not use Inflict here, simply because it is too easy to counter. BMPT against an Inflict, the Inflict can really not do anything. 1 HE on the gun, 4 HE on the RO-107, the rocket launcher, if you will. It's not going to do that much against the BMPT. And by the time that you fire your second salvo, you're dead. Because the BMPT takes absolutely no bullshit from any kind of infantry. He's reinforcing his position even more. There's another anti-air gun coming in. He has a great defense here with the Roikats. And with those, he can flank shot anything that I try to move from here to there. I try to bring in another couple of T-72As, just to make sure that I get a couple more units here. And promptly, the Roikat starts taking them out. Now, he can see me. I cannot see him. For all I know, there's a shooting bush over here. Something from this exact position is shooting my T-72s and starting to deal serious amounts of damage. So I bring in the Mi-2, trying to recon it. And, of course, the GA-35, this time around turned off, so that's a plus. This time turned off. Cannot shoot at the Mi-2, although it might not even be in range. And he's bringing in the command infantry. Of all the positions, I would not have really expected a command infantry here. I would have expected it there, or here, just on the edge of the sector. But no, he pushes it pretty far forward, thereby pulling a sort of reverse psychology. Because I didn't expect such an aggressive CV placement. And this thing's going to bother me for quite a while. Now, a couple of Bosvarks are coming in. My T-72A is getting murdered. Still by the invisible Roikat 76. Because I still can't see it. I can see this guy, but I cannot see the other one. So that was fairly annoying, because I couldn't shoot it. This time around, bringing in a unit that I rarely call in. The BRM-1K. Exceptional optics. I need even better visuals, because this thing will spot most of the enemy units. And I'm hoping that it's not going to get attacked, because it is fragile as all hell, just being a BMP-1. 3 frontal armor, 1 side, 1 back, 1 top. It's not really going to survive for very long. What he does here is use the cheetah D and the darters to take out my reconnaissance unit. That was a good move, because that was another one of my recon units down the drain. T-72, 1987 coming in, and starting to wipe out some of his Roikats. Immediately coming under missile fire from the Buffaloes, but they missed their first shot. They hit the second, and I get my weapon jammed. Nice. So that T-72 is effectively out of this fight, and I'm going to have to think long and hard about how I pull this guy out of conflict, because look at this Roycat. Look at this guy. He instantly recognizes that this tank is fragile, and he dashes at it like a bat out of hell, getting to within weapon range where the Roycat 76's gun is deadly, and instead doesn't actually get the shot, but the Buccaneer does, taking out a 110-point tank. Yeah, I didn't have enough anti-air, read any, because I was too focused on trying to get more vehicles in. The BRM-1K is too far back in my case, and he is also reinforcing his position with the Olifant Mark 1B. Now, as I said at the beginning, these things are pretty good snipers. They're glass cannons, yes, but they're pretty good snipers. And with 16 AP, you have more than enough firepower to go through the frontal armor of a BMP-T, especially if it gets close. And if you need an extra kill, the Buccaneer has your back. And the BMP-T dies. I fly in a yak as quickly as possible, but I don't think I catch this Buccaneer quite in time. There you go, it missed. Flying in another MiG, hoping that his NTR is active. The Bosvark is not radar guided, and the ZA-35 is not even active. So the MiG takes a little bit of damage from the Bosvark, and fortunately doesn't die. For now, I'm sitting at a lead of 279 points, but he still has another 19 minutes to do something about that. Once again, I try to deal with some of his units, but at this point I have basically one unit that I'm trying to deal damage with against a whole slew of units. And once again, a Canberra bomber comes in, drops bombs on the T-72B, but barely splashes it, dealing almost no damage. Once again, however, I have no anti-air, so when another Buccaneer comes in, I'm going to be in trouble. Note the position of my BRDM here. This is the BRDM that got spotted here, took out an XH-1 Alpha, and flanked all the way around, and basically ran out of fuel here. I couldn't quite get it further into the base without running out of fuel, so I just keep it here as an early warning system for planes. Because I don't think I can really... No. From the current position, it can't quite spot what is coming in. And I should have moved it a bit further, because from here it would have been able to spot, and it wouldn't have been detected, because it is pretty good stealthy unit, medium stealth. It still would have been able to spot units without being detected, most likely. Now the Cheetah D comes in. Yak this time around is on air patrol, and can deal with the threat. The Tunguska is still on with the gun, so I try to quickly turn that off, but the Cheetah D already has some other concerns in the form of the Yak 141, and quickly dies, but not before taking a bite out of my Yak. Now at this point he has the Buffaloes, he has the Milan, he has the Olifant. If he had secured this position with a couple more Buffaloes, so a Buffalo here or just some standard ATGM teams there, he could have pretty much side-shot any tank that I had, because I would have either faced frontal armor there or there, but not both. And this crossfire would have been very, very deadly. Another Buccaneer comes in, does not get the line of sight on my tanks and gets pulled out, but not before the Igla takes a shot and hits, although not lethal. Now at this point he's building up a force here. Eland 90, Ratel 2020 and Casper Mark II. These are elites. There is something brewing in the back, although I am completely oblivious to that fact because I cannot see it. Most of my income was just going here to try and counter all these very fast maneuvers from South Africa. He really played that very well, and you cannot see the chat replay, but mid-game I complimented him on how well he was playing. Because I thought, okay, this is a private, he might not have that much experience, he might not be that good of a player. Nevertheless, he was doing a hell of a job, and very capable of using South Africa to create dashes, use South Africa's speed, and, as you can see, smoke up positions, bomb positions, and get ready to murder anything that survives. Because here comes the push. Ratel 20, Eland 90, more Ratels, and the Caspirs all coming towards my position. Now I can see the dash coming with the BRDM-3 and potentially with the Razvedka here. I have one Conquerors team defending this flank. And by luck, I had the T-72Bs, which were camping out in this forest, pulled back. They were en route to go through my base and over there, because that's where I needed them. They happened to be at the right place at the right time. Otherwise, this push would have been even more deadly. These guys, all capable of going 95, 105, and 90 kilometers off-road, dash across the field, murder the BRDM-3 that gets in the way. Yes, they might eat every now and then an ATGM, but, well, one Narrat0r more or less is not going to really hurt you. The T-72Bs are trying to deal as much damage to the vehicles as possible, because if the vehicles are dead, I can eliminate the infantry. I already have the perfect bombing run coming in for that. The Su-24. If he was doing a push like this, he could have probably predicted that I was going to strike back with a bomber, and having a fighter on air patrol would have either potentially dissuaded me, or it would have taken out the 24M. Because right now, he does not have a lot of NTR in the position to deal with it. A Roycat ZA-HVM would have been probably able to hit, if not kill, this Su-24. So this bombing run eliminates quite a few of the units there. I think the CV, the CV is getting murdered, giving him a +1. T-72B coming under attack from the ZT-3A1, which I'm not even sure where that HEGM... Oh, that was my Conquerors team probably. I thought this thing was firing a missile backwards. It is starting to deal with my tanks, eliminating one. The Caspers continue to dash and are almost on top of my mortars at this point. I'm desperately trying to reinforce my town because I thought that's where you're going, but that's not where he was going. It does, however, mean that he has a bunch of Bokop and Parabat 90 in the middle of the field. I have no idea where these guys are going. And I'm thinking neither does he. Because these guys kind of stalled. They could have pushed the town, which would have given him control over the sector. They could have pushed the other town, which would have also given him a much better control of the sector, but they're kind of stopped in the middle. It's like he was trying to get right through the middle of the field, getting attacked from two sides at once, and thereby making a presence, I don't know, there? At that forest? I'm not exactly sure. I'm trying to reinforce my town here. Over here on the left, or his left, my right, I thought, okay, he's distracted here, so I'm going to make a bit of a dash here. Now, one of the T-72... The hell? There are two T-72Bs here, but the unit thinks they're one. That's interesting. That's very interesting. Anyway, I'm starting to deal with some of the Olifants. They really cannot damage me that much, because this has 18 frontal armor and this has 16 punch. So there goes your tank. I'm also starting to deal damage with BMPT against the Buffaloes using that long range 2A72. And it's starting to eliminate them. But there is more coming. The Narrat0r out of Milan's tries to make a suicide dash against the T-72B, but I'm not having any of that. Another MiG flying around trying to deal damage against enemy anti-air guns, but no such luck. Buccaneer comes in, kills a T-72B. Yak kills it, but I know that you can have a lot of Buccaneers. Now at this point, over in the field, where he should have pushed either the town or the other town, the M24P is having a nice snack with the rocket pods and wiping out the Parabats very, very quickly. If you wanted to keep these guys alive, you would have needed a mass of smoke screens. But he just wasted a lot of points here. If he would have rushed this town, I would have lost that town entirely. Back it up with a couple of Roycat ZA-HVM over there, and I would have been screwed, because this town did not have that much infantry in it. And he did a great opening bombing run on it, but he just didn't quite finish with the attack. Over here, another messing up on my part. The T-72B, dealing with the Roycat, which I thought was the bigger threat because it had the bigger gun. Yes, it does. In the meanwhile, this Eland, with its smaller gun, 90mm heat rounds, is taking bites out of the T-72B's side armor. And considering it's firing heat, it doesn't matter whether it pens or not, because it'll always do some damage. And this thing is down to its last legs. Accuracy down to 30%. The Roycat is just kind of sitting there, kind of chilling. And the Eland successfully eliminates my tank. At this point, I think I was even out of those units. Now, I'm not exactly sure where this camera was going. Neither one of my fighters was ready. What is even damaging this thing? An Igla? I'm not sure. But this guy, that just goes to show... Oh, there we go. The yak is coming in. This goes to show how bad my anti-air was in this game. This guy just flew basically over my spawn and back and didn't get attacked. I didn't say I was playing well this game. I said he was playing pretty well this game. Because with Foxtrot neutralized and Delta under his control, as by the Commandant over there, he is at a +1. And we have 12 minutes to go. Now at this point he continues reinforcing this flank. He's still running around with a Roycat. The Roycat, however, does not deal damage fast enough for the BMPT not to kill it. He still has a massive units over there, and he's once again bringing in forces to my town. And this time I have absolutely nothing to deal with it. So the Bokops are immediately deployed, although in a group of 30 they're pretty fragile, because I can hit them with a bombing run and wipe out a good number of them, so spreading them out would have been the better option. Aside from a bit of mortar fire, I have almost nothing that I can throw their way. And the Elan's 90 over there are just kind of sitting there. He could have very easily rolled up this entire flank. The BMPT would have been a bit of an issue, but aside from that, there is very little, if anything, that can stop them. He's even taking some shots at my Potnos with the Valkyrie. If he had used the other artillery, if he has it in his deck, then that would have been a success. Now over here, he's also starting to eliminate some of my... I think I was scouting with a reconnaissance unit, so the Olifant there. Again, as a sniper, doing fairly good work. I have no missiles for the Concours, so I couldn't take it out. And my 24P, which I bring in to deal with the Roycat, gets sniped by the Cactus. So I load up the mortars, and I try to take out the Cactus. I have no offensive units here. I got a BRM-1K recon, I got a Tunguska, I get a transport and an anti-air, and one recon unit, and that is it. I think he starts to notice how fragile this town is, and I'm still not sure how my Motostrelki 90 were able to survive against that onslaught of Bokop. But there is a triple stack of the recon infantry coming in. These guys, with their grenade launchers, are going to make my life very difficult. So I try to eliminate as many of them as possible. Had he dropped off these pair of Pathfinders before, this would have been a problem. I would have still had a bit of an advantage, but not as much. And if he still has a Canberra or mortars, yeah, he still has a Rattle 60 and potentially more of those, he could have just shelled this town and thereby opening up the attack. Now here we go, I'm shelling the Cactus and the Cactus dies, leaving only the ZA-35 as their anti-air. So once this thing dies, I could have just flown a bunch of helicopters over, but I didn't know that it wasn't dead. MiG-27M comes in, deals with one of the Roycats. That's how badly I wanted those things dead. This is a 110-point plane, I think, which I sent in to deal with 50-point vehicles. They're really not that expensive, but they are annoying as hell. Now at this point, he, I think, is guesstimating where my command is, and not guesstimating correct. Because it's a T-72 command tank, much as I have here. Because if he rushes this with a bunch more Roycats, I at least have a bit more time to either pull it out of the fight, or to try and deal damage against whatever is shooting at it. Well, Roycats 105's coming in. I am most likely going to win this at this point, is what I was thinking. 279 versus 96. But this guy was relentless. He kept pushing infantry. He kept going. He never stopped attacking. Yes, his opener could have been better, but good lord. The fighting spirit of this guy was very, very good. Now here come the Rattle 20s, and this is why I have the command tank, because if this would have been a standard command unit, I would have lost it. But with a command tank, the Rattle 20s really cannot do much. They can try to pepper it, but I'm going to take a shot at it, and I will eliminate you. And then, again, he stalls. 30 Bokop, even with RPG 7s, would have most likely killed the T-72, or at least forced it away. But he stops. Keep going. You were doing very, very well with the attack. Keep going. There's a Canberra coming in, but that won't kill the tank. Another couple of Roy Cats coming forward. And now a Cactus Zia HVM plus Bosvark take out the MiG-27. This is because he was making very good progress on getting close to the T-72K1, the command tank. The mortars smoke it up, barely, and eventually it is a Jalo from the flank that takes out the Roycat 76. And of course, the ZT-3 immediately takes its revenge. At this point, 4.5 minutes left and 99 points versus 279. And with control over the flank here and here, I still have no +1, nor does he. And that's the situation that I need to maintain. Now, in the meanwhile, I had taken out his NTR, and I now know where the infantry is. I just can't hit it. Because the moment that I move the 24 VP away, the Commandant no longer gets detected. I'm pushing back with the T-72B against his Buffaloes, as well as the 105, I think it was there. There's more infantry. And a triple Bosvark is making life for my VP and my reconnaissance units pretty hard. And once again, it's the MiG-27M. 115 points, not 110, 115. That takes out one Bosvark. Nice going. Seed, of course, was more of a distraction than anything else. And the Commandant moved just a bit, and the mortars are not hitting it. I'm not even sure I had a 24M left at this point. Nor was it particularly concerning, because here comes the rush of the Casper K-Cars. A bunch of elite K-Cars, at least most of them, and autocannon fire eliminate Alpha. And at this point, I was not even mad. I was just laughing, because he was he was running rings around me with all of his units. Quite literal rings, because his aircraft were flying over my base. His Casper K-Cars, which are just 15-point transports with an autocannon, were killing off units left, right, and center. The T-72 command tank was on its last legs. The smoke from the mortars was the only thing that was keeping these alive. And over here, yes, I have control of the sector, and he's starting to lose it. But good lord, this guy played very, very, very well. T-72B trying desperately to get a position of Commandant, but I couldn't find it, and now I finally have it, taking it out. No +1, because Alpha has been lost. And again, he tries to deal with the command tank. The Roycat 76 panicked, tries to get back up from the Olifant. And I try and dash out of the sector, and now it's going to be me who reloads fastest, and the Roycat 76 dies. Once again, I am very much on the edge of the sector in concealment with a tank on 1 hit point, but it doesn't matter, because the game is up. Now, Musius did lose this fight, but he played like hell. He played a fantastic battle, and I really, really enjoyed fighting him. He played very, very well. Now, hope you guys enjoyed that battle. Let it be known that you can definitely run rings around other decks with South Africa, and that is what it needs to do. It needs to attack everywhere and nowhere. Attack, and then immediately retreat. Constantly making it very difficult for the enemy to come back and, well, hunt you down, because it's just not going to work. You're not fast enough. Anyway, that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the battle. Let me know what your thoughts are, and I'll see you guys soon for another video.